Wuthering Waves has now been out for a year and introduced 12 hologram bosses in that time. And with 2.4's new region and therefore brand new bosses and holograms on the horizon, I felt like this would be the perfect time to revisit all 12 holograms, beat them, and rank them on a tier list to see where they rank. And that's exactly what I did. I'm going to go through each hologram and talk about my opinion and experiences on them before ranking them on this tier list here, ranging from very easy to torture tier. The rules for this were pretty simple: no stat buffing items like food, and also no revive items. I also restricted myself from using characters that weren't out yet when the hologram got released. That means that I will only be able to use 1.0 units for the 1.0 holograms and will then gradually change the teams when I reach later versions. Reasons for that are that newer units are absolutely going to shred older holograms to pieces, which could result in me rating them unfairly. And while I will mention how many tries it took for me to beat the hologram, keep in mind that I already beat these bosses once, and I partially already spent way too much time on them, which means that I already have a lot of muscle memory for them, and I won't rank bosses purely based off of how many times I die. With all that out of the way, here are the teams that were used for every hologram, and with that, let's get right to the list. Mourning Aix. The 1.0 holograms honestly felt like some hologram prototypes. They are generally speaking pretty easy, and they are the only holograms that are level 90 on difficulty 6, unlike the later ones, which are all level 100. If you are a new player and you go into these holograms with units like Carlotta, Cantarella, or Zani, you will absolutely annihilate them in like 10 seconds. They also all have pretty limited movesets. Mourning Aix, for example, is the squishiest hologram and generally doesn't have that many moves. It can grab you, it can slash at you, and it can throw beams of light at you, all of which are honestly very easy to dodge. After shooting those beams of light, it will throw a bunch of projectiles at you, which will pretty much one-shot anyone on your team if they hit you. And the dodge timing can also sometimes be very weird on them. But the moment you learn to dodge them, it's pretty much over. Being squishy and not really posing any danger outside of the light projectiles makes it hard to put Mourning Aix anywhere other than the very easy tier. Impermanence Heron. I managed to last one hologram without dying. Impressive. The Impermanence Heron is a slightly harder version of Mourning Aix, where basically every move except one is super telegraphed and easy to dodge. It can throw feathers on the ground which explode, that can sometimes be janky, but as long as you keep running and don't try to dodge them, you should generally be fine. The main issue with this thing is the second phase, where its heads get reduced from 3 to just 1. It can now use Flamethrower, and that thing is really tedious to deal with. I died both times to that attack, and I still don't know what the actual intended way of dodging it is. The only thing that I found effective is circling under it while it's spewing fire, since it can't shoot directly downwards. But if it starts spewing fire and you are not close, you will very likely just burn to death. Due to it essentially just being Mourning Aix, with the one dangerous attack being harder to handle than Mourning Aix's projectiles, Impermanence Heron is also going to enter the very easy tier, slightly above Mourning Aix. Feili, the monkey. I hate this guy. I'm pretty sure he's the only hologram in the game that gets an entire new mechanic added in the last difficulty. After nearly every attack, monkey shadow clones will spawn, which will throw Rasengans at you. Just as you would expect, those Rasengans one-shot. Basically, if you forget about the monkey clones and you try to attack him because he just finished his attack, you will probably lose a character. During these 5 attempts, I did not die a single time because of the actual boss, but every single time because I got greedy and got punished by the clones. If you are as impatient as I am, you will probably have a hard time here. The easiest way to beat this guy is to just use basic Souls Game 101 and not do anything other than dodging for a few attempts until you understand when the clones appear. The moment you don't die to random flying Rasengans, you will pretty much instantly beat this guy. Lastly, for his spin attack, he gets faster and faster, and by the end, just spam dodge, and you will survive it. While the monkey is a boss, easier than both Mourning Aix and Heron, due to not having anything really dangerous in its arsenal, those clones can be such a pain to deal with, especially if you just cleared him up to difficulty 5 and are used to there not being any clones, and you being able to punish him the moment he finishes the attack. Combine that with the fact that this guy is actually quite tanky, and you could run into time issues as well. Keeping all these things in mind, the monkey is going to be our very first easy hologram boss. Tempest Mephis. This guy makes me nostalgic, and I feel bad for every player who never attempted to clear this hologram on release. This thing teaches you how to parry, and until you learned how to parry a decent amount of its attacks, you probably won't beat it. The gimmick of Tempest Mephis are essentially two things. Number one, nearly every single attack in its arsenal is parryable. Number two, after a short while, a clone will appear, which is essentially just a second Tempest Mephis on the field there to annoy you. Now, if you parry Tempest Mephis, the clone will instantly disappear, making the fight significantly easier. If you manage to parry consecutively, you sometimes might be able to have an entire minute without the clone on the field. Even when you can actively parry it, this fight actually still has a certain amount of RNG to it. The moves that Tempest Mephis and the clones do are completely random, which means that if you are unlucky, they can sometimes chain two attacks together that make it straight up impossible to dodge both. This is also pretty much the first hologram that actually has a relatively wide arsenal of moves. Most of them are simple parries, but here are still some tips for some tricky ones. Judgment Cut. Daddy Virgil's clean one-shot move. There are different ways you can learn to dodge it. People like to listen to the sound, and once it peaks, they dodge. I like to stare at its left foot, and the moment the foot doesn't rise up anymore is when you need to dodge. TP into plunge. If Mephis TPs, you can just swap your character and go away. For whatever reason, it will try to attack and plunge at the position you were before you switch characters. Oh, and lastly, don't parry the Rasengan, just don't. Due to this thing having such a hard clone mechanic, as well as a wide arsenal of moves, and requiring the player to actually learn something, Tempest Mephis becomes an easy first hard tier boss. Crownless. My probably most fought hologram, so me first trying him doesn't really mean much. If Tempest Mephis forces you to learn parrying, then this guy forces you to learn dodge countering. He starts off without his wings and just tries to beat you up. This first phase is generally super easy. He's relatively squishy, you can juggle him, and even if he does hit you, his damage is honestly pretty low. Once he gets into the second phase is where the actual combat starts. He's very aggressive and always starts off with a 11-hit combo, which will generally kill you the moment you fall out of the rhythm. With these long combos, and him generally being aggressive, it can make finding damage windows pretty rough, which is where dodge counters come in. Crownless has a special mechanic where dodge counters will reduce his posture, meaning that you can get very fast stance breaks if you dodge counter consistently. It's here that I learned the dodge counters have iframes, and once you feel comfortable dodge countering his super long combos, this fight becomes pretty easy, making this a pretty similar experience to Tempest Mephis, and therefore getting Crownless into the hard tier. Inferno Rider. Fuck this guy. Genuinely. If this was a tier list based on how fun holograms are, this guy would get his own tier at the bottom of it. You need to play like you're playing Doom, since if you stay in one place for more than 1 second, you will get obliterated by constant meteors falling from the sky. Combine that with Inferno Rider driving around the arena like he's DUI, and you end up not being able to hit this guy, perma-spamming dodge since there are around 40 flaming meteors constantly approaching your current location, and having to watch your stamina decline more rapidly than the meta relevance of a 3-month-old HSR DPS unit. To top it all off, you have to kill this guy twice, once on his bike, and once after you knocked him down. I'm gonna be honest, once he gets off the bike, he becomes a bit less tedious, but this fight is genuinely still, by far, the worst one in terms of fun. Especially when the two holograms before this were challenging boss battles that forced you to learn actual game mechanics and use them to make the fight more approachable and easier. And then you get slapped by this, with you spamming dodge and spamming random high damage attacks, and him doing the same until one of you dies. Boring, annoying, and if I wasn't trying to make this video, I would have never fought this guy again. With all the bullshit, but with him being arguably pretty squishy and a good Jinshi being able to do, for example, huge bursts of damage, Inferno Rider also ends in the hard tier for different reasons than the other two. Fallacy of No Return. And with that, we have reached the 2.x holograms, which during this replay feel vastly different. Fallacy got hyped up by content creators to be this insane boss that no one will ever be able to beat. Yeah, spoiler alert, he really isn't that hard. Don't get me wrong, Fallacy is hard, but I would definitely fight Fallacy over Inferno Rider every single time. The main issue here is how much more power we have from here on. Shorekeeper being out now, as well as Carlotta being out, results in an insane power spike in terms of team power, and bosses end up having massive issues dealing with something like Carlotta Changli Quick Swap. Fallacy reminded me a lot of the monkey, where you have to be constantly wary of the after damage from its attacks. It can stomp on the ground with a massive shockwave, or use its hammer, which is going to send a delayed shockwave, which is going to deal good damage if it hits you. Fallacy is also going to attempt and switch to its second flying form with the giant fists, but generally you can manage to get a stance break in right before it enters it, meaning that you can get potentially Fallacy to around 40% HP before having to deal with the second phase. The second phase gives us something brand new though, parryable projectiles. It's weird, there's no animation, sound, or visual cue as far as I could tell, but when Fallacy shoots bullets at you, you can parry them, giving you the parry sound cue and reducing Fallacy's posture in the process. I still would not recommend this, and I personally just dodged all of them. Oh yeah, and if Fallacy starts wildly swinging its hammer, just orient yourself on the shockwaves on the ground and keep dodging, and that attack generally becomes relatively easy to handle. All in all, Fallacy is a hard tier hologram, but still fair to fight. And with the massive power boost from more modern units, I feel comfortable putting Fallacy with the others in hard tier. Sentry Construct. I find Sentry Construct to be significantly harder than Fallacy. This thing's attacks are all so delayed, and are most of the time clean one-shots. As someone who even in Souls games has a massive issue dealing with delayed attacks, this thing was a pain to deal with. It doesn't help that it's ice resistant, so my Carlotta just tickles it. Seriously, Kuro. Can we please remove resistances for holograms? Thank you. Other than having delayed one-shot attacks, Sentry Construct doesn't really do all that much. It shoots, which gives you a ton of concerto, it flies, and it loves doing its delayed spin attack, to which I died every single time, since I'm sure it's over, and then he decides to go for yet another spin. It can also regenerate posture, which is incredibly annoying, and unless you can run behind it and do a huge burst to stop the animation, it will literally regenerate all of its posture. And that's honestly about it. I would put Sentry Construct as the first very hard tier hologram due to how much I personally struggled with its delays on the attacks, but that would be unfair since this thing doesn't really do all that much outside of that. So without any bias, I think that yet another hard tier would fit it just right next to Fallacy. Hecate. This thing is insane, like genuinely. It has so many moves, all of which deal huge damage, as well as weird timings for both dodges and parries, as well as two phases with two separate health bars. This hologram is definitely above the rest by a decent margin. The key things are essentially, don't panic from the shooting eyes and watch them. When they blink, that's when you should dodge. The whip in the second phase is crazy hard to parry, at least for me. The parry indicator feels straight up wrong, and if you learn the parry timing of the whip, it's great. But I personally felt like it was way safer to just dodge it every single time. She also has a decent amount of stalling moves, which means that time can unironically be an issue here with the amount of stalling as well as 2 HP bars if you play too defensive. With this many tools and you instantly feeling on what a different level this thing is, Hecate becomes our very first, very hard tier hologram. Congrats. Dragon of Dirge. I hate this thing. It's an abomination of hell, and every time I have to fight it, I would rather just peel my own skin off. This thing does the same shit Inferno Rider does, but does them like 20 times more cancer. It has a huge arsenal of moves and will throw the most random shit possible at you, while just like in your average Souls-like dragon fight, your camera will actively try to screw you over. Seriously. The camera against this guy is so rage-inducing, with it just perma-unlocking from him and you having to constantly readjust it. You will also fight this thing for 3 hours straight and suddenly die to a random attack that you have never seen before. It starts off every fight with a comet rain, so if you are like me and you just die and instantly try to attack it, you just die instantly and get even more agitated. Unlike Fallacy, for example, Dirge here actually recovers its entire posture bar the moment it enters the second phase. So the best thing you can do is to try and stance break it before it reaches 50% HP. It starts phase 2 with a massive flame tornado, shoots homing missiles at you, throws even more random bullshit at you, and even starts cosplaying as Placidusax, teleporting around and attacking you with a variety of melee attacks that vary from no delay to huge delay. Yay, fun. And with me using, yet again, Carlotta Changli here, this fight just became even more fun, since my Changli deals less damage than my Shorekeeper against this thing. I hate Dirge, and I feel bad and sorry for anyone who has to fight this thing. It is absolutely going straight into torture tier. Fuck this guy. Lorelei. Lorelei is a joke. I'm sorry, there's just nothing else I can say here. And before anyone goes and comments on me needing 2 attempts, I ran into her attack twice because I'm dumb. It had nothing to do with the boss itself. She just doesn't do anything, like literally. She's squishy, she lets bubbles slowly float at you, which you can even destroy with any ranged character. And when she does attack, it's always throwing bubbles which produce shockwaves and stars at you without a delay. So you can just spam dodge without needing to learn any timing whatsoever. Even when she changes forms, basically nothing changes. She now has a melee attack which she can use. Woohoo, so scary. But other than that, she just doesn't do anything new. There's also a green bubble which will occasionally appear during the second phase in an attempt to massively heal Lorelei. But as long as you destroy the bubble, this boss is basically a joke, and I have no idea how anyone could struggle against her compared to the other ones on this list, letting her join the others in the very easy tier. Fleurdelys. Yeah, fuck her. Both literally and figuratively. By far the hardest hologram as of right now, at least from a non-Zani perspective. She does have a buff for Spectrofrazzle units, so maybe using Zani reduces the difficulty significantly. I don't know, but if you watched my Fleurdelys hologram video, you know how much fun I had. I did not beat her again, by the way. I tried 10 times during this retry. I got destroyed 10 times and decided to give up and just use my already posted YouTube video, since I basically beat her in that video, which was like 2 weeks ago. So if the 49 attempts of that video and the 10 attempts I did here, that brings me to 59 attempts just to beat her once. I don't know. I just can't handle her. Her move arsenal is absolutely enormous. She attacks with different timings and different speeds, making your camera sometimes go haywire with all the TPs she can do in quick succession. She also has ranged attacks which she can do either fast or delayed, and of course, everything one-shots. I won't waste too much words on her. If you want to see just how bad it is, check out my video. It's the best way to explain this, honestly. As for tips, get good. I don't have any, and it boiled down to me essentially spending 3 hours on her and just slowly getting better and better muscle memory for dodging her bullshit. But I'm sure there are way better players out there who are solo dungeon blindfolded 0-hit run on a Nokia 3410 while their parents are screaming at each other and they're bleeding out from 4 fatal gun wounds, who can probably tell you some insane strats to not make this fight a living hell. In case it hasn't been obvious, she's joining Dirge in torture tier, and therefore concluding this tier list at the moment. And that's the tier list. I will say it again, this were my personal experience now, based on me fighting all 12 holograms in a row. And of course, not anyone will, for example, find Dirge that bad. I can't wait to see what kind of bosses Septimont is going to bring, since holograms are probably my favorite aspect and favorite mode in Wuthering Waves, and I'm actively going to keep this list updated. If you like content like this, as well as other content that you can find on my channel, feel free to subscribe to not miss out on future stuff. But yeah, that's about it. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Tell me what you agree and or disagree with on this tier list. And I will see you in the next one.